last names that's super easy to say. One of those Eastern European last names. It was actually really hard growing up with a tricky last name. Not even just, like, it's super long and it's hard to spell, but I think it was harder for me to learn how to spell it than it is now for me to teach anybody else. It's one of those names that no one knows what it means, especially not me. I'm like a transplanted Eastern European, so that just means that all of the culture's already been bred out of me. But I kind of think of my last name as a recovery program, something like Alcoholics Anonymous, where like you have really good intentions when you start out, but you never make it to the end. But actually, like, it wasn't just hard, it was actually really disappointing a lot of times growing up with an Eastern European last name. Like when I was super young, you know how when you go out in the neighborhood and your parents are like, you know, be really careful, look out, you know, don't run on the street, look out for big white vans, that sort of thing. It's not funny, it's serious, guys. I don't know where you guys grew up. But look out for the big white vans, because, you know, the scary man will get you and he'll kidnap you. But it was way scarier for me than for the other kids, because my parents were like, if you see a white van, run, because if they catch you, you have to go to the United States of America and work for a living. And I didn't really know what it meant. It was something about human traffic, which was really confusing because it was like, don't run in traffic, human traffic. I don't really get it. So if anyone after the show, if you could explain, I'll stick around so we can go over it. But like the disappointments just got worse after that. Like if there was the white van thing, and then there was, you know, when I got a little bit older, I thought I'd get into gymnastics. And so I went down for the first time to the gym to try it out, and I thought I was going to be super good, you know, and then I walk in and, you know, I'm talking to the lady, and then that's when I found out I wasn't Romanian. So that didn't work out actually at all with my last gymnastics class. But, and like I said, it just got worse. Then I went to high school, and, you know, I'm in the 12th grade, and you sit down with your school counselor, and she asked me, what are you going to do for a living? What's your career going to be? And I didn't really know what she meant, because I was like, well, I'm going to be a bride for a living. And she was like, you're not Russian, so you can't. But I was like, are you sure? Because I was on MSN last night, and I got like 15 marriage proposals. So I'm not a bride for a living, so it didn't work out. Probably because I'm actually Polish. Deserving of applause. But I'm half Polish and half feminist. Obviously feminist, that's on my mom's side. So, I mean, that just made growing up even harder. You know, like I personally feel like feminism, the way that it sort of comes out is, it's not like we talked about it at home all the time, but I feel like I have like the man's voice and the woman's voice in my head at the same time. And the way that kind of works is, you know, like I'm sitting around at home on the couch and I kind of look around and the house is a huge mess. And so the woman voice in my head is like, this is really dirty, it's kind of gross, you should clean this. And then the man voice in my head is like, well, you do it. And then the woman voice in me gets all PMSy and is like, well, how come I have to do it? And then I just don't. But I don't actually, like, I wouldn't say that I think about being a pseudo-feminist on a daily basis, but it definitely comes up. I joined, I'm now a member at Scotiabank as of recently, and so I get letters from them in the mail every once in a while. People do still use mail, just so you guys know. And so I get letters, and they're always addressed to Miss Makarewicz. And anytime I tell anybody this, they don't understand. Nobody thinks it's a big deal, especially guys. But I think it is a big deal. And the reason I think it's a big deal is because I just think that miss is just giving away too much information, and I'm not necessarily prepared to do that up front. And the way that I kind of see it is it would be like if I introduced myself, you know, and I was like, hi, I'm Gabby, and I'm 120 pounds before I throw up, and I wet the bed until I was 17. Nice to meet you. That's kind of how I think about it. And, you know, for a guy, it would be like, hi, you know, I'm really glad to meet you. My name's Steve. I'm 2 inches when aroused. Do you come here often? So I just don't agree. So I go by Ms. That's the other one, guys, not the Miss one. So I know there was someone up here earlier who I guess was in marketing or advertising or graphic design. So they're related, okay? So I work in advertising as well, or not as well. It's not what you do, I'm sorry. But people always say that must be really hard. You know, you get paid to come up with ideas. It's hard, but I wouldn't say that's the hardest part of the job. The hardest part is actually watching the ideas get gunned down at really close range with a really large firearm, and you're not allowed to help them. You just sort of, like, you watch and they bleed, and then you have to reach the boardroom. So the best example I can think of is I just had a billboard go up over the Gardiner. And I'm surprised it even went up because we had a huge fight over it. And basically the problem was the billboard was supposed to have a huge cob of corn on it, which I know sounds dangerous, right? You're worried, a cob of corn. But the client was concerned that from the back, the cob of corn might in fact look like a huge cob. And I know. But I was just thinking when else this might actually be an issue. Like, can you imagine Trojan putting up a huge billboard over the Gardiner, and, you know, it's just like a huge cock with a condom on it, and then, you know, and then the client coming back and being like, well, you know, we really love the cock side of the billboard, but we're kind of worried that for people who are driving east, it might look like a cob of corn. But I do really like my job, even when it's tough. One thing I find a little difficult is probably one of the younger people at my agency, which is fun, but I get a lot of people asking me where I buy my clothes, and I don't think it's a good thing. I normally get the word interesting, and I know that they mean it to be a compliment, but I know that where I grew up, interesting was like what you used if you couldn't think of a nice way to describe like the neighbor's three-legged dog, or you know, like if you just don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all type thing. So people ask me sometimes, where do you shop? And they say, I'd really love to come shopping with you sometime. And I find that weird too. I'm not sure whether they just want to save me. Like they think if they can find out where the store is and get there first, then I won't be able to do this to myself. But I've decided it's either that, or it's kind of like some sort of research type thing, kind of like a BBC documentary or something. So I've been thinking about how I can make money off of this. Said I'm in advertising already, I think. So I've decided that either I'll be some sort of personal shopper, which, whatever, or I'm going to make my own documentary. So I've been thinking about it. It's going to be set just really close, actually, Bloor Lansdowne. There's a huge Valley Village there. And it's just going to be me, but I'm going to be like hunting down sweater vests and like preying on, like pleather with the shoulder pads and stuff. And I think it'll be good, so watch for that.